Welcome everyone to the PJ's Cast. I'm your host Pierce, joined alongside of my good pal Dylan. Here we are, two fellas podcasting off. Haha, get it? I did like the Four Nations thing. So, um, in this episode, yeah, we're gonna talk about the Four Nations. We're also gonna talk about some news that just happened today. Apparently, Seth Jones is open to a trade from Chicago. But before we get into any of that, I have to ask you, how was Monday Night Raw on Monday?
It
You
was a
got
lot
to
of
go and
fun.
see it.
Got to take a couple of my coworkers to it. It was one of their birthdays, so great
Oh,
birthday
nice.
experience. Crowd was hilarious. We were in a really funny section, so just the side commentary from all of us was very funny. The matches were fantastic. I finally got to see Seth wrestle live for the first time, which was awesome. He didn't do his fucking Superflex Falcon Arrow, which I was a little bummed about, but it was a good finish nonetheless. Roxanne match was great. Getting to see AJ wrestle was awesome. Braun speared the crap out of someone, which was so cool to see. And Cody Rhodes wrestled in a dark match, so pretty good, honestly, pretty good. If I had it my way, CM Punk would have showed up, but he didn't. That's okay. Card had plenty to offer besides that. And my coworkers that didn't, or one of my coworkers that had never been to a wrestling match before, had a blast. So that's really all that matters. And it was good to see a couple of my buddies, and it was a good time. It was a good time. Well needed.
Speaking of good times, do you want to talk about the Four Nations tournament, or do you want to talk about the Seth Jones news first?
No, Four Nations first, 100%. It's the
Easily
most,
the best.
Sorry,
You go.
Oh, I was just gonna. I was literally just gonna say it's the most exciting thing that's happened in hockey in God knows how long. So fire away.
Yeah, same sentiment. Wow, it's. I don't even know where to start because so much shit has happened. Like going into the tournament, I wasn't too I guess like hyped about it. Like, oh, obviously I was gonna watch the games and stuff, but to me, if anything, this has exceeded my expectations because like we have not had best on best hockey since 2016, since the World Cup of Hockey. And the thing with the NHL is like there needs to be more gimmicky stuff. When the 2016 World Cup of Hockey happened, I remember when it was announced and there was Team North America and there's Team Europe, everyone was like, oh, this is so stupid. It's so on brand for the NHL, but it actually represents the NHL trying something new, and everyone loved Team North America and even Team Europe. Team Europe made it all the way to the final. And fast forward to 2025, like with COVID and all that stuff, and the NHL not going to the Olympics in 2018, the NHL not going to the Olympics in 2022. Like, this is a long time coming for hockey fans, and you can see with the ratings, the viewership numbers in the States. Like, I think it was like 10 million people tuned into the US versus Canada game on Saturday, and that's just the US. I think like another 5 million tuned in Canada. Regularly averaging like a million viewers for even the Finland Sweden games, like US Sweden, US Finland, then like Canada Sweden and Canada Finland. Like, again, wasn't super hyped coming into the tournament. I feel like we didn't talk about it that much, but like just a smashing success, and it just really makes you like wonder like what the hell, like why did this take so long to happen? Also, there should never be any more all-star games again. Like, the players are playing their asses off, and this is all to them. So I got so many thoughts in my head, but I don't even know where to go. Like, what are your thoughts?
We talked about it time and time again over the last couple of years. The easiest way to grow the game is international play. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's normal sentiment with most sports. I mean, you look at, places like the NFL, they're going to places like Brazil and Australia and Germany and all these places. And baseball goes to Japan all the time. Like this is what you do to grow the game. And granted, I'm not going to say it was all Bettman that the reason that they weren't in there the last decade, but he's a pretty strong reason for it. And when you look at the numbers that USA Canada did in terms of the last calendar year, in terms of hockey, I think they lapped every other thing in the United States by 4 times. Maybe it's because there's more talent in this sport than there ever has been, and we haven't seen them on an international stage. Like I think you and I talked about it a couple of days ago. It's a crime that we're probably never going to see Ovechkin and Kucherov, like at least at the level that they are. Like Ovechkin's on the tail end, but the tail end for him is still a torture path. But it's just we're missing out on a lot of these matchups. Like thank God we got to see Crosby and McDavid at some point, and
And McKinnon as well, yeah.
Yeah, dude, Makar and all these players, and Matthews with the Kachucks and Eichel, and like you look at Sweden with Pedersen and Nylander and all these players, Bratt. Finland, I think, has put up a better fight considering their decor isn't as strong as you would imagine. It just shows how much competition can be brought out from just a simple concept. And I think it's great that they greenlit the World Cup of Hockey. I think that's coming back 2028. So they'll have one All-Star game in 2027. But like, if this is what they use for the All-Star break, I think it's going to reignite the players. This is basically like pushing them for the playoff push now. Everyone's going to come back wired as hell. And it's probably some of the best hockey we've seen in a while. And two, it's going to incentivize people to actually give a shit, which has been a very big problem with the All-Star game format the last couple of years, which is unfortunate because I thought the 3-on-3 system would have been actually really good. But, when you don't let them draft their teams and take away the one fun thing there was and make it division oriented, I think that kind of ruins the purpose of the All-Star game. The point of the All-Star game is to see players you don't normally see together. Like, I don't need to see McDavid and Anze Kopitar for the 9th time together. You know what I mean? As good as both those players are, that's not the point. Like, the fact that you're seeing lines of like McDavid, Point, and McKinnon is just disgusting. Like, it's just disgusting.
And the Chuck brothers and Matthews or Eichel or whoever the hell else.
Dude, I think the line that's been killing it for us the most is Gensel, Matthews, and Hughes, ironically. Just tortures of lines. And, we've been starved of this. And I think you and I could both admit they didn't even bring their best crew. Like, plain and simple.
I would argue, especially for Canada, if you want to talk about defense and goaltending. But yeah, the U.S. left off a couple of guys who are like, oh, probably should have gone. Like Tage Thompson, Clayton Keller.
Yep. And that's the reality of, politicking in the NHL. But, I mean, obviously this tournament doesn't come without its woes. I mean, McAvoy, I don't know what that is.
An infected right shoulder? Did you see the graphic? It's like a picture of Charlie McAvoy and it just says infected, and then like underneath
Did McDavid hire like a Pinterest witch to hex him? Like, what the hell happened? They hit him twice and this is what happens. But it's gonna be
they can do that to Jake Sanderson so Quinn Hughes can play, am I right?
Right. Jake Sanderson's gonna get taken out back. Also, the Sanderson praise today has been kind of crazy on the timeline. I knew he was good, but people were like, he's going to win an Norris in the next 3 years. And I'm like, that's a lot, but we'll see. This has been a very, very exciting tournament. And I think, like you said, I had very little expectations going into it. So makes me very happy. One, to see that they're actually giving a shit, which usually happens when you're wearing your country sweater on your chest. But two, the games are competitive. Like, even the games where Canada's come out swinging, Finland hung around to the end. Sweden forced overtime. So I think it's been a reigning success. I think the only way you expand it is, like I said, more teams and you have a couple games overseas. I think next year it's got to be one in Stockholm. There's got to be one in Helsinki. There's got to be one in Berlin. Like, let's go to some crazy locations and play some hockey games, especially considering the Olympics are in Italy next year. So that's my 2 cents on everything.
Yeah, lots of thoughts. Like, for me with the All-Star games, I think they should do international versus North America like they did like 25 years ago. And I think they should do a wager of whoever wins that game gets to host the tournament. So say if like Europe wins or rest of the world, whatever you want to call it, if they win that All-Star game before the World Cup of Hockey tournament, they would get to host it in Europe. So it could be like Sweden, Finland, Germany, wherever they want to host it. And then like Team North America wins, and you just do it like you did this year. But yeah, there are a lot of like playing for your country, and there's a lot of like external factors that we're not really going to get into, but like that atmosphere in Montreal was crazy. We went to Montreal for the draft, and it was the atmosphere is crazy. I can't imagine going to a game like that where like it's politically charged. Like there's a lot of, again, we're not going to get into it. There's external things happening, and I feel just that opening face off between Canada US like is just like almost 10 years of pent up rage we haven't played, and like this crowd is electrified, and we're just gonna like let it all out by beating the shit out of each other. Yeah, like even though Canada and USA, they're going to, well, I don't know, the final gold medal game, whatever you want to call it, because I think they are handing out gold medals and there are trophies. So guess it is technically the gold medal game. Like Finland and Sweden, like they played some great hockey. I think the only really blowout game was that US Finland game, and even then Finland held in for like 2 periods, and then USA just like kicked the door down and won. What was it, 5-1, 6-1? But Finland, Sweden, they played a great overtime game again that kind of gets overshadowed by the Canada US game later. And even though Finland did lose to Canada, like they battled back as hard as they could. Like part of me kind of wanted to see them to go to overtime, because even if Canada did win in overtime, like there would have been more implications for that later game between Sweden and USA. And then like watching that first game, Canada versus Sweden, just seeing that ridiculous power play of like McKinnon, Crosby, and McDavid, them factoring in for a goal, was just chills. And then getting to see such like a great close game between the two teams and it going to overtime, like just truly great hockey. I'm like the NHL's got to be thrilled with the success, and like hockey fans in general as well should be thrilled by like the kind of hockey we're getting. I just can't help but like think that you could even do better. Like we talked about this. There's so many like different. This is a golden age of hockey right now. There are so many stars from different countries. Yeah, other countries might be inferior wise to Canada, US, even Finland and Sweden, but even like a team Switzerland, a team Germany, a team Czechia, a team Slovakia, like you can go at least 8 teams deep in a tournament, and we're gonna get that at the Olympics next year. So yeah, it's a great start, and we should never did what we did in the last decade and have no international hockey. We should just keep that going.
Yeah, it's a good launch point for the next 5 years, and the talent influx is the perfect time to do it in. And this is something that hockey can make legitimate strides in terms of national popularity and whatnot. And as much as we talk about it all the time, it is a very pivotal aspect of what they're going to do going forward, because if they don't have a following from outside perspectives besides their hardcore fan base that they've already built, the sport will get stagnant no matter how many TV deals you sign. So with all this expansion coming, with all this money coming into the league, it's now or never to really get your fan base back that you lost 20 years ago, because there was a time when this sport had the trajectory to pass basketball.
Dude, there was like sorry to interrupt you, but I remember there was like a magazine article from the early 90s. I think it was like an ESPN article. It was like, oh, is hockey the next new hot sport, like ahead of basketball? And then like I think the 94 lockout happened, and then we got into like the dead puck era, and then there was another lockouts, and like games were being out like broadcasted on the Outdoor Life Network. Like we had that for a good 10, 15, 20 years, and now like again we're in a golden era, but the NHL's got to keep it up, and this is how you do it.
Facts. Capitalize and get more teams involved. Like, I know we're in a tough situation, but it's a real shame we can't get Russia in this.
Yeah.
It's a real shame.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the reason why. We're not going to dive into it, but it's just the amount of talent that country has morphed into in the last 10 years, let alone the last 20. Like, it's not just Malkin and Ovechkin, it's waves of talent. It's not just Fedorov.
Three-headed goaltending, like they would have the best in the world easily, and that's saying something when the US has got Hellebuck, Oettinger, and Swayman, just pretty good in their own right.
Yeah, not too shabby, right? Not too shabby at all. Although Oettinger is a bum. Just kidding. That's not true. I think the joke we made that's my favorite is Connor Hellebuck lets his first goal in and just locks the fuck in. That's literally what happens every time.
Yeah, you want to actually talk about the games. Yeah, like that crazy fight. And man, when McDavid scored that goal, I thought this was going to be a game where like Canada is going to take over. They're really going to feed off the crowd. But then really since Bennington let in that Gensel goal, just like it just seemed to suck all the momentum out. And I mean, we can blame Bennington all we want, but he only let in 2 goals. If you're Team Canada, you should be good enough to overcome that and score more than 1 goal, in my opinion. Like, and that's not to take away credit from the US. Their defense was incredible. Like McAvoy got walked on McDavid, and he rectified that by like just destroying McDavid and not letting anyone get by. Jacob Slavin, like the whole defense was amazing, but like McAvoy and Slavin in particular really stood out to me. And like Hellebuck's a great goalie, and when you don't really give up much slot shots, like chances from in close, like he's pretty much gonna stop everything. Like it's hard to mess up a Canada roster, but I just don't like the way they constructed. Again, I think the goaltending is the huge talking point because yes, they don't have a Carey Price, they don't have a Roberto Luongo, they don't have a Martin Brodeur, Patrick Walker, Joe, who are the hell, like insert Canadian Hall of Fame goalie here. But to me, that's not been the problem. To me, it's like the construction. Like, yeah, you got Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon, Braden Point, Sam Reinhart, Mitch Marner, some of the best players on planet Earth. But just looking at kind of the bottom six, I love Anthony Cirelli. I love Sam Bennett. None of them have ever hit 50 points. There's guys like Mark Scheifele that are sitting at home, and there's a couple of guys like I wouldn't even chose Sam Bennett off Florida. Like I would have chose someone like Carter Verhaeghe before him, and the defense as well. Like yeah, you got Cale Makar, but the moment someone like that does go out, like who's your high-end puck mover? Shea Theodore got injured too. Like this is a moment where you could add an Emily Bouchard, which is why I don't agree with like, oh, we got to have more grinders or more like role players. It's like, no, you never know what's going to happen in a tournament. You just bring the best players and you figure it out from there. But I mean, that's the narrative right now. They lost to the US. If they beat the US tomorrow, it's going to be, oh, Canada built a perfect team, or like, oh, you had your eye of offense, but like you had the guys to grit it out and win. So, yeah, in a short tournament like this, that can happen. Like McDavid, McKinnon, or Crosby can steal a game, but going to this game, I think this is the US's game to lose. I think they are the best team in this tournament. Like even with a Quinn Hughes out, I still think they have the best team. And again, just watching that game when like kind of the top players are like cancel each other out. Jake Gensel scores 2 goals and Dylan Larkin got the game winning goal, and Canada didn't get that. So either way, I think it's going to be such a fun game to watch. And again, it's like they're very much for Canada. Like this isn't just bragging rights. Haha, we beat the US. No, I feel like there's national pride on the line. So this might be the biggest game for Team Canada since 2010 in Vancouver. And like you laugh,
that's so crazy to even say.
Yeah,
bro. Like that's so crazy to even say, bro. They fought for gold against Sweden. Like, come on. It's just your bragging rights. You need them more than that gold medal. So bad. But yeah, I think I said it to you immediately. I was like, the fact that Canada can't get inside the dots and they tried to draft big, I think is a glaring issue with their way they constructed their roster.
Like I bring up Mark Scheifele, Canada could have used a Zach Hyman as well.
Yep, and you look at Team USA, they're built the exact opposite way. They still have just as much skill. They just play a completely different style of hockey. It's grit and grind. Get the puck to the point. Get some rebounds. Get some dirty play while also getting possession. Like Eichel was still doing Eichel things. Matthews was still getting his chances. I think I've seen more crossballers in this tournament than anything. I feel like I'm watching freaking Blackhawks. I feel like I'm watching Frank Nazar play again. Like, good lord.
Brand Stoddard, Victor Stahlberg.
Man, what a line. Just all crossbars. Jeez, more crossbars than goals. But
crossbars per 60. 100%.
Right? But it's just a different play style. Like, think about it. A line like Eichel and the Kachucks, they're just going to wear you down. Like, a line like Matthews and Gensel, they're just going to wear you down. And Hughes is just going to make the right play at the right time. Like, even guys like JT Miller, when JT Miller gives a shit, he's not going to make it easy on your opponent. Dylan Larkin never makes it easy on his opponent.
Nope.
And I can't say the same for a couple guys in Canada, and that's okay. Like, they're just not that player. But like, it's a problem when guys like Hagel are your muscle. You know what I mean? And that's a shame. And it's also just the reality of the players that have come out of Canada. Like, it's just the reality. It's rare you see the 6'4" guy come out of Canada and be good. Like, when was the last time that happened? Or at least a power forward from Canada that came out in the draft and was good. Yeah, Getzlaf, man. But that's so long ago. Like, that's so long ago. And I guess Perry too, to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
still, like, that's almost a decade ago. And I don't like Mark's. Okay, let's put it this way. If this tournament was a little bit earlier, like if it was 2021, Mark Stone would be that player. plain and simple.
Mhm.
And he still kind of
Yeah,
is
they
in
won
this tournament.
2022. Yeah.
But like McKinnon's just not going to do that. McDavis is not going to do that. Crosby will, but Crosby's an enigma. He's Mount Rushmore hockey player. We talk about this all the time.
What's the Steve Dangle tweet? I know I'm butchering the hell out of it. It's like, oh, is Crosby going to pass the torch? And he's like, no, he's just keeping the torch.
No, he's kept the torch for two
he's still
generations
Captain
now.
Canada. Yeah.
Like, it's why he's the best. Like, he had 3 assists in the one game.
Yeah, against
goals
Sweden.
in the other.
And literally the game against Finland where they let in 2 late goals and it was 4-3. Crosby's like, no, we're not fucking losing this. And then he scored an empty net goal to make it 5-3.
If I'm them,
Like,
I'm just putting them with like McDavid and Point. And just saying, go figure it out. Like, and then put McKinnon with Hagel. Oh my God, it'd be a nightmare. McKinnon, Hagel, and McDavid just speed all over the place. Like, at least play to your strengths. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, perimeter play is where some of these guys' strengths lie. And when you're losing and the other team's turtling, that becomes a problem. Because that's what the U.S. did in the third period.
Yeah, the U.S. like parked the bus in probably the best way possible. They were like, here, you can have the puck, but we know you're not going to get to the middle. Again, we have Jacob Slavin, we have Charlie McAvoy under defense, we have Zach Werenski, Brock Faber, we have Noah Hannafin, and
when Adam Fox is an afterthought, that's
there. Yeah, exactly. Like, you can do that,
and there's no Quinn Hughes.
Yeah, exactly.
The best defenseman's not even there. Oh man.
And then when you do get a shot in the slot, you got the best goalie in the world to stop it. Yeah, I think that's such a good point, because my thing was Canada, they can score these beautiful goals off the rush. Like, I feel that's where they've gotten a good percentage of their goals is off the rush, these pretty passing plays. Like, the one goal they got was Connor McDavid just turnstiling Charlie McAvoy, which really doesn't happen that often. And like, they couldn't score that greasy goal. Like,
I also think it's like they just don't have the puck movers on the back end. Like, when Makar was out, it was just Morrissey. Like, the Doughty made that pass. That's great, but Doughty can't make that pass all the time anymore. That's not who he is. You look at a guy like Devon Taves, that's just not in his game. You look at a guy like when you don't have a Theodore, when you don't have a Pietrangelo.
Yeah, even Shea Theodore hurts. Like, the thing is with Thomas Harley, I didn't mind him. Like, someone like Travis Sanheim, I'm like,
I forgot Sanheim's on that team. Ugh. Why? Like, that makes no sense.
I would have taken out. There's a few guys like I would have taken Evan Bouchard. I would have taken Mackenzie Weegar. I would have taken Aaron McElrath.
Bouchard would at least help you get some offense. He generates so many pucks to the net. Like, well, maybe this is just Canada tinkering for next year, because I feel like the U.S. was kind of tinkering a little bit too. Obviously, the U.S. just kind of did bring most of their elite talent, but like they still have guys like Caulfield and Thompson off, and I think they're going to get a second look. Yeah, Keller. Like, it's the thing. These two teams are just so deep at forward. You have your pick of the litter, but at the same time, if you pick the wrong litter, you are going to get discriminated, or not discriminated, but you're going to get scrutinized for it. And it's just because there's so much talent.
Discriminated. Fuck you, Canada. Yeah.
Just discriminated. Yeah. 51st state. Get excited. 18th province. What's it going to be? Fucking Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns gift. Oh man.
But no, like like, it's stupid because none of these NHL players care. Like, you ask them, what do you think them about Canadian fans booing the anthem? It's just like, oh, I don't like it. Like, if you can't follow up the question of like, why do you think, like, do you know why Canadian fans are booing? Then stop fucking asking the question.
They don't like the hockey team, clearly, Pierce. That's the reason.
Yeah.
There's totally not anything going on in the world that would make them boo.
No. And like, just like,
the people that are like, you're not booing Finland.
I was just gonna say, like, oh, no booing in the Sweden Finland game. Like, yeah, no shit. Anyways,
it's because Nick Lidstrom's holding them all at gunpoint during the anthem. Don't you? And Matt Sundin sitting there just staring at everyone like, you better not. You better not.
Then you got like Teemu Selanne doing the same for Finland.
Teemu Selanne's like, I scored 76 goals once. And then he looks at all the Finns that had the potential to do that.
Looks at Patrick Laine.
Literally. Be ashamed of who you are.
I wish
No,
they did.
it's
I wish
literally a Soldier Boy and Homelander beam.
you're just a cheap fucking knockoff. Yeah.
Dude, literally Solani looking at everyone on Team Finland, honestly, for being like, I don't think there's a single player on Team Finland that's as good as Teemu Solani ever was. So, like, even Rantanen at his peak, even Aho, like Barkov's probably the closest. And even then, the offense isn't there like it was with Solani. Crazy to even think about, but
Pretty sure Teemu Solani played at like I think 6 Olympic games. That's crazy.
elite.
I wish they did like a third place game because another Sweden Finland game was like especially like I don't know, like a third place or like a bronze
Yeah,
medal or
fuck
whatever
your
on the
bronze
line.
medal game, bro.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Go home. Go home.
Boston's like, we
That
don't
would-
need you here. Go away.
Yeah, a team with a Canadian leaf on their chest playing TD Garden for a winner take all game. That's never gone bad before.
Yeah, so yeah, except they got both chokers on both sides of the ice, so it's going to be interesting to see which ones the straw that stirs the drink, as they say. I'm choking. Maybe they're not stirring the drink if they're choking, but who knows?
And the guy who's starting for Team Canada won a Game 7 there in 2019 in the Stanley Cup. So, I mean, again, goaltending, it's going to always be the hot button topic for Canada. But to me, like, as long as Jordan Binnington doesn't lose you a game, like, I don't care. Like, they just got to win. Like,
The second Jordan Binnington lets in a stinker, though, oh man, I can't wait to check Twitter. That'll be so exciting.
And the crowd's going to be on them because the crowd remembers what happened in 2019.
Binnington.
And they might boo Brad Marchand.
Crazy to even think about. Can't believe they boo a Blackhawk like that. It's so crazy.
But yeah, Brad Marchand is a guy. I'm like, that game you should have reveled in, that Canada US game, and I didn't really notice him that much. But hey, got this game to do it. How are we feeling going in the game? Because honestly, I think the States are going to take it. Are you feeling the same?
I feel like it's gonna be a terrible game, to be honest.
Like a blowout, like a
No.
7-1 win.
No, not even like that. I just think everyone's
Oh.
gonna be gripping their stick too tight. I think it's gonna be one of those games where it's like people are gonna be passing when they should shoot, shooting when they should pass, like just overthinking everything. I feel like it's gonna be like a 2-1 game.
Oh,
That's why that Binnington stinker is gonna be abysmal because it might be the only one he lets in all game. But yeah, I think it's gonna be like 2-1. But it really just depends. Like if Canada gets out to an early lead, like multi-goal lead, that'll be interesting. But if the U.S. get out to a lead, I don't know how Canada comes back from that because the U.S. is just gonna suck. They might just suffocate.
they're just going to park the bus.
Yep. Park
Should
that
that be the name
fat
of the podcast?
Kachuk
Park the
bus. That's what I have to say to that.
Yeah, with the States, like you brought that up earlier, like they have guys like Kachuk, like Matthews, these big mean forwards that are talented but and can score goals. Yeah, Canada doesn't really have a player like Kachuk, like any of the Kachuks. The Kachuks are so unique, and like even like he's not at the tournament this year, but like a Tage Thompson as well. Looking at Canada, they have so many skilled guys, but none of them I don't think are over like 6'2".
It's the height dilemma. This is why Bedard's not making the team in 2026. He's not tall enough. He must be this
Yeah.
tall Canadian roller coaster now. Tom Wilson, come on down.
Yeah, that's the one guy. Like I think Canada's probably looking at like, oh, we got to bring him for the Olympics.
They're going to bring Michael Misa when he's got 40 points in 30 games as a rookie. We're the Blackhawks. Oh, man. Can't believe they didn't see that one coming. Crazy. Nah, just kidding. It's going to be celebrating on the team because he's bigger and he goes to the dirty areas.
Yeah, and he's been so great as of recent as well.
No, Pierce. No, certainly he's still not second in points. I mean, 40 points in 45 games. Hello. But no, he's just so good. He's just so much better than Bedard, guys.
Yeah,
It's okay, though. Pellegrini's good. Both of them are going to play for Team Canada and get smoked by James Higgins in the future. It'd be great. Who's some? I don't even know, dude. Who's some goober U.S. player that's been drafted recently? Oh, Frank Nazar. There we go.
No, Oliver Moore.
It's okay. Nick Lardis will shatter all their dreams.
Valordis on Team Canada. Let's fucking go.
Nick Lardis
have
getting
no
brought
idea.
on because he's the Patrick Sharp of this team. Who's gonna be the Brent Seabrook? Is Renzel Canadian? No, he's
No, he's American. Ethan Del Mastro. or Nolan Allen. Nolan Allen.
It's Nolan Allen.
Nolan
Nolan
Allen
Allen
making the
told
Canadian
Dallas.
Olympic team over Logan Stanko, and this is where I win.
That's how I win. Oh my god.
Jeez.
Too funny. Too funny.
Yeah, but all of them are going to be on the Blackhawks' future defense because Seth Jones is going to be traded. Oh, what a transition.
Yeah, he's about time. But don't worry, look. Davidson just lost like all of his leverage in the meantime, so that's fun. But yeah, continue, Pierce.
Yeah, earlier, Ben Pope put out an article saying that Seth Jones is open to being traded. Like, no official, like, oh, he's requested a trade, but he is open to being traded, which, with the cap going up, anything feels possible now. Like, is there, with the cap going up, is there such thing as a bad contract now? I don't
Yes.
think so. Darn owners, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's still some bad ones out there. Don't worry. But
But,
the less bad. They're less bad now.
yes.
But yeah, Seth Jones requesting a trade, or not even requesting a trade, I guess just facilitating a trade,
Being one, yeah.
entertaining one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We were kind of spitballing ideas earlier before the show.
Seth Jones for Tyler Seguin.
Listen.
We go from Taylor to Tyler.
My most galaxy brain idea ever.
That what you did cook on that one. You
Seth
did.
for Tyler in the offseason. It makes almost
Tyler.
too much sense for both teams. The Stars need to free up a forward spot. They also need to at least reallocate that money somewhere better. Heiskanen needs a D partner. You would literally lock up him and
Or
Jones.
Thomas Harley.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, Heiskanen and Jones' contracts perfectly aligned. They'll be together for the rest of their deals.
Oh, I didn't
Like,
even think of that.
Exactly what they're looking for. The right side's abysmal, and Seth would be an immediate upgrade.
What do you mean Ilya Labrushkin and Matt Dumba aren't good enough? And Cody Ceci, you can't forget about that.
Oh my god! And also, the Hawks aren't trading for him this year because they don't have a first. So they traded it for Granlund. So I don't really. There's no trade that makes sense there in the midseason. Plus, Say gets hurt. The salaries make sense. It makes more sense for the Hawks if they retain on Jones and they. The Stars have Jones at 7.5 for the next couple years, or what is it, 4 years or 5 years? Like, I think they'll be happy with that. The Hawks
next
get
year will be
someone.
this is year 3 of the contract.
Yeah, the Hawks get someone that's making more money than Seth Jones for less time, and Seguin immediately upgrades his forward core when he's healthy. This is a player who still can produce at a high level. I think he would bring the best out of some of these players in the system, and they're good. He's a good piece for them to learn from. And if he gets hurt, that allows for the kids to come up, and the forward is a spot where they have the flexibility to do this. So I think it just makes a little bit of sense for both teams. Seth is, like we've already talked about, that was one of the final 2 teams Seth was looking at was Dallas and Chicago.
I think he's from the or like I don't think he's from Dallas, but like he has connections there. Like I'm pretty sure his dad played basketball there. That or Colorado. I always get the two mixed up. But I know he's got some kind of ties.
Yeah, they're
to
from
Dallas.
Texas. So home ties, family ties. It almost makes too much sense.
Yeah,
My
he's from
only
Arlington.
concern is just that they want to keep Seguin. And he might have more value than Seth Jones, but that's neither here nor there. I probably would say Seth's got higher values, a right-handed defenseman, but the contract does negate it. But I would assume the Hawks are retaining. We also entertain the idea that if the Hawks just said screw it and retained half, you probably get the best haul you're ever going to get for him, because any contender will take Seth. That's 4.5.
You might get something similar to what you gave up to get Jones in the first place if you retain half.
Yeah. And like and I talked to you about this. I don't see a world where that's going to affect the Hawks, even if they go big game hunting this offseason. Like, let's say they go get Mitch Marner for $14 million times 7 years. And they're retaining 4.5 on Seth. That's 18 mil right there. You're adding 9 mil to your cap at the end of the day, which they very much can't afford because they're paying people $4 million to be fourth liners. So you definitely can afford it. But it's one of those cases where you can get really creative with this if you want to, or you're just going to rip the Band-Aid off and lose the trade entirely. And I think you need to at least entertain looking at more creative options if you're going to trade him.
I think he does get traded. Like within like the next 5 or 6 months by the offseason, I think there is a trade to be had with Seth Jones. And to me, the more you retain, the more like you open up like more teams and the more like you could potentially get. Like you're casting a wider net if you're retaining more. And obviously that's what like Kyle Davidson and ownership, if like they want to retain less, you have to like sit with the fact that you're not going to get as much, but also you're not going to have to retain as much. So but if you retain more, you're going to have $4.5 million on, or what is it, 4.75 on your books for the next 4 years for him to not play for you, but you also get a huge return and the cap's going up. So to me, like this is the time to get creative. This is the time with the cap going up to make a trade like that. So
yeah, and just kind of looking at his stats, like he's having his best offensive season in Chicago for basing it off of points per game. He's got 26 and 38 this year, and he hasn't been an anchor defensively outside of that month. I think he came back from an injury too soon to play in the Winter Classic. He's got decent trade value, I would believe, and he's a 6'4" right-handed shot that can skate and play 25 a night. I don't know any team who's going to turn that away if the price is right. I know you mentioned Colorado. That him and Makar on the right side is disgusting just to even think. And Manson, like, good Lord, that's a nasty right side. LA, I brought up.
LA is an interesting one because they have like a lot of younger guys that the Blackhawks might be interested in, like Turcotte.
Yeah, Turcotte. It'd be awesome if they can get a Brandt Clark trade out of that, but I don't think that's possible. You could go full circle and get the high-end right-handed defenseman prospect for Seth Jones.
Yeah, from 2021.
Oh, my God. But I think you mentioned Washington. I said Tampa, if they retain half, I think would be all over that.
If they retain half, absolutely. Like,
I think you and I both admitted like the sweet spot's 3.5. Like I think if you retain 3.5,
yeah, like 2.5, 3.5. Yeah, like
it can't be less than 2.5. That's pointless. Like if you're retaining 1.5 on Seth for 5 years, so what was the point? Just fucking bite the bullet legitimately to where you can have legit roster flexibility. We watched a team like Minnesota still be competitive when they had 17 mil in dead salary.
That's a really good point.
Very possible. Yeah. It's very possible. And this is something that benefits both sides, I think. Because at the end of the day, when this team's where they need to be, Seth Jones is going to cause a logjam on that right side. It's just plain and simple. If Rinzel and Levshunov hit the ceilings that we believe they're going to be today.
Fuck, even Crevier at this point. Like,
yeah, dude. Like, he's going to hog up a spot 3 or 4 years down the line, which is a long way, I know, but also you have to take that into account when he signed till 2030. So decisions have to be made, and I'm glad. I think we talked about it. There was no reason for Seth to want to be here. He was like, I think the whole reason he wanted to come here in the first place was to be the captain, and he was never going to get that, especially after
you lost out the captaincy to your former teammate Nick Foligno.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe go talk to the media after putting up an embarrassing performance in the Winter Classic. I don't know. Just a thought, but they're gonna do right by him. I think Davidson's done right by every player that he's parted ways with, I would say. I don't think there's anyone he's put in a bad situation on the way out the door, which is more to be said than the previous GM. So I can't imagine he's going to go to not a contender. I know I joked about Anaheim with you earlier because like him for Zegras, like in a vacuum makes a lot of sense, but there's just other circumstances to be had. And I think you mentioned Edmonton as well, but
That's like that's not even like, oh, he wants to go there. Like that's I'll wave my movement.
oh, I
cards
get to
go
play with
there and win a
McDavid and
Stanley
go
Cup.
try to win a
Yeah,
cup.
yeah.
Maybe.
I guess. Yeah.
He's like, but I gotta live in Canada.
Yeah.
No,
Edmonton.
he's like, I gotta go from Columbus to Edmonton. Oh, terrible.
Yeah, the Columbus of Canada. Actually, now it's probably more like Winnipeg, but yeah. Yeah, like I could maybe envision Edmonton or Toronto just for and like especially in Toronto, he would be the guy on that defense. Like I've been listening to the Dangle podcast and they're like, oh, like they have decent defensive depth, but they don't have that number one guy. Like to me, Seth Jones would step in and be that number one guy. And Edmonton, you're probably gonna be second fiddle to Bouchard and at home. But yeah, like yeah, it's probably going to be another few years before Lev Shunov, Rinzel really hit what they could be. But to me, there's no better time than the present to trade Seth Jones because of all the factors. The cap going up, like this is your time to capitalize and pounce and find a trade. And I don't know if we brought up Vegas, but I would also put Vegas in there just on account of them always looking for the big name. And with Shea Theodore being out for a while, they're going to find a way to, whether even if it's Seth Jones or not, they're going to try to find a way to get another big name in there. So
always, and that's why we're going to take Nick Waugh, Pavel Dorofeyev, and God knows who else.
Nick Hague, let's do it.
There it is. Bang bang. But yeah, Seth Jones going to be an interesting one to watch, like you said, up until July 1st, I think, and I think the biggest thing will be if he's going to give them a partial no trade list or if he's going, because I would think that's what he's going to do. He's going to give them like 5 teams to work with, I would think. Or he's going to be really douchey and be like, I want one team. And he has every right to with his no
he has a no movement clause. That's what you got to do.
Douchiness, like, for sure.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Because, like, what did he give Columbus? Like 3 or 4 teams to work with?
Yeah, it wasn't a lot.
I would assume it's that.
I think Philadelphia was in on Jones. I think Colorado and Dallas and Chicago. So yeah, probably maybe at most 5.
Yeah,
probably less than that. Like 3.
It'll be an interesting one to watch for sure. But if it's Dallas, I'm telling you, the longer they wait on that trade, the more it'll make sense.
So yeah, that's my 2 cents that I tried to put in the gumball machine and it got spat rack out.
Yeah, Seth Jones, like it doesn't line up. Like there was a reality 4 years ago where it might have lined up, but yeah, there's just so many on ice and off ice circumstances that to me, like it never was gonna happen. With Jones, I think like sometimes I think we are too harsh on him, but also when you're getting paid the big bucks, $9.5 million, and you can't even go out and answer questions after a Winter Classic loss, it's like, yeah, of course the fans are kind of gonna scapegoat you, even if it's not your fault for someone offering you $9.5 million and then just like the team imploding on and off the ice. So yeah, like the thing is, like with Seth Jones, why do you want this? Why do you want to be in Chicago where you're clearly miserable? Like Chicago, I bet is an incredible city to live in, but I think you would probably rather go live in Vegas, Dallas, or Colorado with a winning team, I would think.
And here's the best part: you're always going to get that $76 million, no matter what, or whatever the hell it is. 90, like you're going to get that money regardless. As soon as you sign that dotted line, even if you get your contract completely terminated, like Mike Richards, you're still going to get that money. So don't worry.
One way or another, yeah.
But yeah, it'll be an interesting one for sure to keep an eye on. And like I said, the more creative the Hawks can get, the better, but that's a lot to ask for. But if there's anyone that's been creative in the past and at least attempted to be creative, it is Kyle Davidson. I mean, he tried to trade for number 4. He got really creative with Hagel with the Leafs at one point, trying to get Nyes. I remember that. And I still think the trade with the Lightning in hindsight was still creative. He got 2 firsts for Brandon Hagel. Granted, Brandon Hagel has done exactly what we thought he was going to do on the Lightning, which is to send to a top player. But, hindsight's 2020. can't be mad at 2 first-round picks at the end of the day. And
No.
if one of Boisvert or more pans out, the win for the Hawks.
You're kind of just hoping that like Moore and Boisvert like equal, at the very least, like equal to a value of a Brandon Hagel, and you get them on cheap contracts and they're part of a winning team. I think that's probably the worst of it.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, the Blackhawks could have kept Hagel, but I am of the mindset that Brandon Hagel would be almost too good. I don't think they get Bedard, but also I think he would have been like a 30-30 guy in Chicago. And Tampa Bay, he has gone to like, he's going to be on Team Canada next year at the Olympics. He's already there for the Four Nations, and he's like over a point per game guy. Like he could score 40 and 40. I don't think he was ever going to get quite to that in Chicago. So I think both is true. He would have made the Blackhawks better, but I don't think he would have been at the level that he is right now.
Yeah, agreed.
And how about Brandon Hagel? Like 4 years ago, he was barely cracking the Blackhawks lineup, and now he's like fighting. I think it was Brady Tkachuk in the Four Nations. How about that for him?
Brady Tkachuk in the Four Nations. Oh boy,
what a guy!
Biggest games he's ever played. I would love that. Would love nothing more than that. Yeah, like Kyle Davidson, he has like made some pretty interesting moves, and but also there's moves he hasn't made, like getting that 4th overall pick. Supposedly the Blackhawks were really, really in on Gensel. Like we did hear that, but I always keep hearing Elliot Freeman be like, "Oh, they like were really disappointed that they didn't get Gensel." So Kyle Davidson clearly knows this team needs forward help, and I think you could help like get that with trading a Seth Jones. I would even see like if you could package Donato and Jones together and see what you could get.
Yeah, try to maximize value. That's definitely a thought to do. I would have to imagine. I mean, if you don't, like I said, if the value's not there for Donato and the value's not there where you want for Jones, combine them and see if you could get a package deal. We've seen it in the past before. We've seen it time and time again. And who's to say you can't get that if the situation presents itself? And also, I think the more the days go by, and if Donato's still white hot coming out of his break, it's going to be hard to trade that guy. But also, you got to trade high. And but the thing is, if the value's not there, don't do it. Like, don't just trade him for a second to trade him for a second. Like, I don't think that's what you want to do at the end of the day.
Yeah, to me, even at this point, is a 2nd round pick good enough for Donato? Because at the beginning of the season, I'd be like, absolutely, you take that. But to me, it's like it's got to be more than a 2nd now, because again, it'd be nice to have another 2nd, but they have so many already of them. You need guys for next year and play with how Brian Donato does, gives 110% every game. He's almost in a way kind of like a poor man Brandon Hagel. Like you can put him at anywhere in the lineup, any position. He plays well with Bedard. Like you need to start keeping guys, and they've done that. Like they extended Mrazek, they extended Foligno, they extended Dickinson. Like if you don't get what you wanted to trade, might as well just keep Donato. Like you can't let him walk either, though.
Yeah, can't let him walk for nothing.
Yeah, just with the cap going up, to me, there's no excuse this year for Kyle Davidson not to get 2 top 6 forwards. Because right now, who do you think are the top 6 forwards going into the next year? Because to me, it's like Bertuzzi, Bedard, and Tavo, maybe Nazar, but I would almost like going like he has been playing like one, but I don't want to go into next year be like, okay, you're guaranteed. Like they need more support. Like there's no reason they can't like either.
In an ideal world, you have a 2C, Nazar's your 3C, and Dickinson's your 4C. That's the ideal world. I think there's also an ideal world where Teravainen's on your 3rd line as opposed to your 2nd line. But I mean, he's pretty plug and play throughout the lineup this year. Like you said, there's 3 top 6 forwards, and I think there's 2 middle 6 forwards of Donato and Nazar, and that's good ground to work on. And then you have couple great bottom 6 forwards in that mix. I think Reichel and Slaggert are getting right there in terms of just using their game to the most of their potential. It's going to take 2 big hitters, like you said, though. It's going to take at least one top line player, whether you figure it out through the draft with someone or you need to go after one of these guys if they hit the open market. And there's going to be one of them's hitting it. One of them's hitting the open market. It's bound to happen, even with the cap going up.
I think it's Rantanen. Like, I don't know. I think both Rantanen and Marner do, but to me, if anything, I think Rantanen's more likely because I'll put it this way. I see like Marner coming to an extension with Toronto more of a possibility than Rantanen staying in Carolina. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Granted, saying Carolina looks less likely by the day, but the Carolina's just getting
Like, good on Eric Tolsky for trying, but sometimes you just can't fit. You can't just move them like chess pieces.
Is
you know what I
Rod
mean?
Brendamore kind of their own worst enemy? Because you know who was kind of a team like that was like Carolina that like, oh, you look at all the advanced stats, but once they got into deep in the playoffs, they could not score. Vegas. For a while they did that. Vegas would knock on the door, but they could never score in a matter. But you look at all the, the advanced stats, expected goals for, whatever you want to use. It looks good, but it seemed like they couldn't score until 2023 when they got Bruce Cassidy. So like, is Rod Brendamore, is he kind of a detriment to that team as good as he's been having them play for the past 5 years? I don't know.
I think there's a glass ceiling with what Carolina's done, and I think Rod
Mhm.
Brendamore's a big part of that.
I think another big part of that is the talent not living up to their
Standard. Like Andrei Svechnikov should
Yeah,
have
I was
probably
just gonna
been an
bring that up.
85-point player at this point.
Yeah. He should be like in talks with guys like Brady, like both the Kachucks as like a premier power forward, and you just don't hear that. Like even him being on Carolina, like you should be in that discussion. He's a former second overall pick, and we've seen flash of it, but he just hasn't reached it yet.
Yeah, it'll be.
Yeah, he hasn't reached his full potential yet whatsoever.
And we saw the thing of the Blackhawks like diminish their own value of Taylor Hall by playing him in the bottom six. Like, he's going to do so much better in Carolina, and I don't think he's done worse in Carolina, if anything. Like, I don't think it was just a Blackhawks thing. And they still got that third round pick out of them. So
It was their third too. People just see the third and they think that's like pick 80. No, that's going to be pick 65 most likely. Like it's a good thing for the Hawks to have. That's for sure.
Yeah, just with the free agency class, like they could realistically come up with like a Rantanen or a Marner level player, and then maybe get like a Brock Besser or like an Ehlers or a Bjorkstrand. Maybe that's a bit too much, but like even if they don't get Rantanen or Marner, like if they don't get a Besser, Bjorkstrand, or an Ehlers, like that's a failure. Like you have to look at free agency, you have to look at trades as well. I don't know about Elias Pettersson because he had a pretty rough Team Sweden, but I still would take a look at that, especially if you somehow drop to like pick 4 or pick 5 in the draft. I would do that. But yeah, it's time to get creative. You got free agency. There's no reason why you shouldn't come out of this offseason with 2 more top 6 forwards. You can also use you got all your draft picks. You can go out and potentially offer sheet someone. Maybe you finally go full circle and get a Matthew Knies. Maybe you go to Dallas and get a Wyatt Johnston. Like there's names out there. You just got to do it. And Davidson, he has shown he's been bold. There's been some misses, but now you got to connect with your swing and get a good player.
Yes, sir.
Because
these guys got to start developing.
Because you probably have the deepest prospect pool in the NHL right now. Like it's very well regarded. Like Nick Lardis might hit 70 goals in the OHL, which like I think only 10 players have ever done before. And like Lindros and Gretzky is on that list. Roman Kantsarov is having one of the best like seasons by a young player in KHL history. But like, I don't think at this moment they're projected to be like legitimate top 6 players. You got to go out and get players that have proved themselves.
Can't be betting on lottery tickets all day. You got to get some hits eventually.
You got the defense as well. Like the defense is so fucking disgusting. The fact they might have a right side of that's completely homegrown of Lev Shunov, Rinzel, and Krevy. Like realistically, if they all hit their ceiling, like you could have 2 number 1 pairs with having Lev Shunov and Rinzel on one side and then having Vlasic and Gorchinski on the other. You got a bunch of guys who can skate and do a lot of things well, but I think to me, you need to start looking a bit more one-dimensional. Like I think you should look for guys who can put the puck in the net or a playmaker. You need those kind of guys to put with Bedard, or at the very least, like put him on a different line to split things up, because Crosby played with Kunitz and Dupuis for a long time, but he also had Malkin on his second line. So like you got like everything. Like the most plentiful thing they need to me is wingers, like forward support for Connor Bedard. That's the easiest thing. They've done the hardest part. They got the superstar. They got the defenseman. Now, like your main focus should be going out and getting young forward talent to play with Connor Bedard.
Yeah, and like you said, Davidson tried to do it on multiple occasions. He's going to have at least 3 shots to do it this offseason, because I'm including that top 4 pick. You're getting you better pick the right one. That's all I'm going to say.
They are either getting like Matthew Schaefer first overall, and we still need to get a prospect guy on the show, but from what I see, everything like Matthew Schaefer is ranked number 1 overall despite that injury. So like he's got to be at least a Rasmus Dahlin type player, or
I was going to say Morgan Riley.
No, like to me, it's at least Rasmus Dahlin, and you're hoping he's like a Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar, legitimate number 1 like franchise altering defenseman, like if at that first overall pick. But likelihood is they're probably going to be picking 2, 3, 4, and in that case, you're probably going to get a Michael Misa, you're probably going to get a James Haggins or a Parter Mortone. So this is the draft, and like if you do get Schiffer first overall, then you trade away from your young defenseman, because notably teams just hate young defensemen.
Facts.
But we talked about this. I'm Misa pilled. I hope they get Misa second overall. Like that's
been Misa pilled.
Yeah, that's kind of the dream right now.
100%.
So yeah, we touched on the 4 nations facing off. Touched on Seth Jones and a little bit on
facing off.
Yeah. 4 nations dorking off, and by it.
Yes.
Let's just say my peanuts.
About time.
Do you kind of want to talk about how the Blackhawks have been playing? Funny enough, this is probably one of their better stretches in the past few years. I think they're like 3-4-3 or 3-3-4. I think they've gotten like at least 1 point in 7 of the last 10 games before the break. That should just show you how bad they've been recently. But they have been the games are at least watchable for me.
Oh yeah, they play watchable hockey, which is always good. But it's just like
it just shows where their shortcomings of their game lie, and they need more firepower. Like they actually keep in most games because they can play a pretty structured game most of the time. They just need those people to put them over the top, and they need people who can draw penalties because their special teams are actually great. They just never get to use them. So those are the 2 things I really gathered from, what's been going on, at least in terms of this tournament, or not tournament, this is the season as a whole. I mean, tournament too. Teravainen got scratched L, but still. Yeah, it'll lead to some interesting stuff for sure. They're one of those teams that just down the stretch, I'm very interested to see what happens. I'm interested to see what prospects get a couple games on the team. I think this is coming down to guys solidifying if they're going to be legitimate players next year. Look at guys like Slaggert and whatnot. Just like, are you going to solidify solidify your spot? Back end as well. I mean, the little conundrum of Allen, Del Mastro, Kaiser. Someone's going to have to separate from that and put themselves above everyone else.
Out of here. Probably.
Yep.
Or playing in Rockford.
100%. So that'll be interesting to see. But those are the things I've really gathered. Soderblom's been incredible. Mrazek
just keep playing him. Give him the majority of the games down the stretch. Let him, play more games and get used to it.
Facts. Yeah, he's been playing great in Rockford, so just kind of leave it as is right now, I guess.
Defense, yeah, like for the forwards, like we talked about trading Brandon Hagel earlier, and it's like we're kind of looking for a replacement for Brandon Hagel. Like you're not gonna quite get the level of production, but like Landon Slaggert, step on up. Like even after like Blackhawks signed him to a 2-year extension, $900K for the next 2 years. That's with the cap going up. That's like less than pennies. Like that is such a good contract. If you can keep up the way he's been playing, okay, you're not Brandon Hagel, but maybe that's a guy you put on your third line going forward. Same with Lucas Reichel. Like he's kind of had to change his game. Like he's not going to be the top 6 guy, but if you can be a guy who plays on your third line, hopefully uses his speed more and draws some penalties and like can chip, like be like 30, 40 points guy. Like you take that. Reichel's making 1.2, and then again, Slager's going to be making $900K for the next couple of years. But then at the same time, like you're going to get Oliver Moore coming in, like Ryan Green. It's like at this point, they're more like middle 6, maybe at best bottom 6 guys. You gotta start looking for legitimate top 6 guys. And again, you're not going to solve that at the trade deadline, but Trevor Zegras, like we're just going to keep pounding that. Like we're going to keep pounding the drum for Trevor Zegras until he gets traded here or elsewhere.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the reality of what we do. We're just going to keep banging the table until something happens. And when nothing happens, I'll keep banging the table. So yeah, take that.
And it's like, we're not even being unreasonable. Like, would Zegras even cost a first-round pick at this point? I think they could do 2
I'd trade
seconds.
Toronto's first for him. I don't care.
I totally would too, but I feel like they could get him for less than that. Like, it doesn't seem like his value is that high right now.
I know they just want Phil Kershaw so bad.
You know what? We'll throw in Lucas Reichel as well.
No, I actually want to keep Reichel now. Like, if this is what he's going to be, he's actually kind of perfect for what I want this bottom 6 to look like. Guys like him and Slager in the bottom 6 with Dickinson.
And, you know, Fliggy, Dick, and Mick, my Friday night. Oh, man.
Like,
What a line.
Is that the name of the podcast?
Yes. Yes. If that was the question, yes, that is the name of the pod.
So you kind of cooked earlier with these lines, and like this is obviously taking into consideration if the Hawks make these moves, but I don't think this is like within, like I think this is within the realm of possibility that this could happen. So you had Bertuzzi, Bedard, Marner on your first line, Teravainen, Nazar, and Sagan on your third line. You had Reichel, X, but like you could fill that out with a Ryan Donato or like an Oliver Moore or Nick Foligno because you don't have him there. And then the fourth line, Slager, Dickinson, and Mikheyev. If they can somehow do that, I think that's at worst.
You got
like
a
team that
motherfucking
fights
squad
for a wild
now.
card. Yes, we've got a fucking squad. We're going for
the conference, baby. Look out!
And like obviously you wouldn't have Jones, but you would probably still have Connor Murphy and
Still got
like,
Vlasic.
Yeah.
Korchinski makes the jump.
Yeah, and one of like Allen, Ethan Delmaster, or Kaiser figures it out, or hell, maybe 2 of them, and like a Louis Crevier, or maybe you go into free agency and you sign Aaron Ekblad for like 2 years at $8 million per, or
Hell
whatever.
yeah.
I don't know. Hell yeah, brother. But I'm saying all this, but to me, the first thing that needs to be done to me, if Kyle Davidson doesn't do this will piss me off more than not getting a big forward. They need a legitimate head coach. Yes.
Get
like
a coach. See who gets
Like, fired in 2 months and
get them.
There's been like some changes with undersorts, and like the game is a lot more open, like the defensive are a lot more active. And I would say the most important part is you got Connor Bedard going, you got a Swagger back, which is good, but there is no reason unless this team like wins 20 games down the stretch that Andres Sorensen should be this head coach next year. And again, no disrespect to him. He should be coaching in Rockford because he did such a good job. They're bringing the defenseman along. Frank Nazar was doing really good under his tutelage. You're going to have more guys going through Rockford. Keep them down there and get a real goddamn head coach. Because to me, I might even be more pissed off at that because like they could sign Rantanen and Marner and like another top 6 forward, but if you don't have a coach to bring it all together to get this team to play the right way, like we've seen this with the past, the 21-22 Hawks and the 18-19 Hawks. If they had a head coach, they at the very least make the playoffs, in my opinion. So like as soon as the season ends, that should be your first goal, and then you start looking for forwards.
Facts. get the. I mean, the coach should be hired before July 1st, so that'll be
Yeah,
good.
it should be hard.
Before the
It should be hard
draft.
before June. Yeah,
Well,
hard before
yeah,
June.
like, I want him to wait a little longer, just because like you never know who gets fired in this league.
That's
Someone
true.
might get canned in the second round that we're not expecting, and if that's the case, go get them. I don't know who that is yet, but like, let's just say, in a vacuum, Rod Brind'Amour's available. I know I just talked about glass ceilings. That glass ceiling is a lot
You would
fucking
get us
higher
to
than
the
what they have
playoffs.
now.
Yeah,
We're-
yeah.
Go get that. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. There's going to be someone out there that makes almost too much sense. I just don't know who it is yet. And because he hasn't been fired yet. Simple as that. So I guess look at teams that could put their coach in the hot seat if it's an early playoff exit. And that comes to mind. Andrew Burnett, I have to imagine, is going to get fired here at the end of the year. It's another one
Dude, he
that
got the
could be.
Panthers to almost 60 wins a couple years ago.
It's not no one, that's for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, you Laviolette will probably be available, considering how
No, I
the
wouldn't
Rangers
want
like to
Laviolette.
make
Do
moves.
you think if Dallas
He's
goes
gonna
on-
make the Cup final and lose with Bedard. That's why.
Do you think if Dallas loses in the first round that Pete DeBoer could be on the chopping block?
Pete DeBoer, is he gonna lose in the Cup final again? Let's fucking go, dude. We're gonna-
Hey, he's never lost a game 7 though.
Hey, listen. Might be the move. I don't know. But someone's gonna be available. I mean, we look at like what Dean Evison's doing in Columbus. Like that's what they need. Period.
That's
End of story.
yeah.
It's gonna help the kids.
Um,
It's gonna help the veterans not hate life. Pretty
Yeah.
good.
Because at this point, like, they could go with the David Carl route or Jay Woodcroft. Like Jay Woodcroft, I would really like. If they, here's another one. This guy is coaching the U.S. and might be the winning coach of the Four Nations tournament. What if Pittsburgh's probably gonna miss? Do you think they're gonna hold on to Mike Sullivan? Mike Sullivan's available. You go get him as well.
Yeah, David Carl. He's the wild card. I feel like.
Yeah. Because
If-
to me, the Blackhawks should hire established head coach, but from what we're hearing, everything about him, like, who fucking knows?
Had prospects that have played for him, so you can hear
Mhm.
from them firsthand, whether it's on Team USA or whether it's on Denver. So
The thing is, like, there's always coaches available, and they get recycled a lot. But like, there are legitimately good head coaches. Like, but that's the easiest thing to do. Like, you can fire a good head coach. Like, look at Bruce Cassidy or Jim. That's crazy that the Bruins have fired Cassidy and Montgomery.
yeah, and
like, the past 2
certainly a
years.
coach that was really good at University of Denver would make a good NHL coach.
No.
Jim Montgomery.
So yeah, get a good head coach and then go look for some forwards.
Ready, break.
So, we do have a few Twitter questions to go, and most of
Funny
them are
Twitter
kind of
questions. Funny Twitter questions.
related.
This one comes from Dave. I'm just kidding.
First question at Connor J. Chris: when the Hawks get Marchand and Rantanen, who plays with Bedard?
Landon Slaggert. Next question.
Lennon Slaggert and Ryan Donato. Woo!
I love how Bedard gets the like 2017 Taves treatment as a 19-year-old. It's great. This is awesome. But both.
Yeah.
No, you put
Ideally
Marchand
both.
and Bertuzzi together.
Marchand, Bedard, and Bertuzzi, or you just go small, annoying second line and go like Marchand, Nazar, and Bertuzzi,
Yummy. Gimme, and then
and then you just have these bums, Bedard, Rantanen playing together. Like
Oh!
again, they should be able to do this in the
and then you can put
offseason.
Teravainen with them.
Yeah, that too. You know, just that bum.
Stop forgetting Teravainen, brah.
Well, I am Team Finland, so yeah, I forget him. I forgore and scratch him.
Joe Armia, he's just better.
Yeah, because he was good in that one playoffs in 2021 or something.
You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know.
No, because they lost in the first round of the Maple Leafs, and then the Leafs went on to win Stanley Cup. So.
To the laughs.
Next question from @ShyTown Drew 23: if the Hawks trade Seth Jones and Donato, where do you think they will go and what the Hawks could possibly get for either of them. Have a great day. Oh, thank you. We kind of touched on it earlier, but to me, like maximizing your trade return would be retain. No, they can't retain on both Donato and Jones, but retaining half on Jones
Donato's making
and Ryan
$2
Donato,
million.
who I think is only making $2 million anyways. So
if you can't afford $2 million, you're the Leafs. That's not good.
broke ass scrub.
Broke. But yeah,
I would think
Thank
like if we do like Seth Jones for Tyler Seguin, like giving them back Jones and Donato, that would be something. And same with Vegas. Like Vegas, you can just always throw into there no matter what. Colorado as well. Like any team that we talked about earlier, like you could throw Ryan Donato in there to increase your returns.
Yep, 100%.
Couple more questions. Zach says, do you think Seth Jones actually gets moved? And again, we talked about it earlier, but I don't think it's like 100%, but I'm pretty optimistic. Like to me, this is the time you do it, is right now, because you never know. Like he's been really good as of recently. Teams love right-handed shots. With the cap going up, you could realistically retain half this money, and that gives room for Lev Shunov and Rinzel going forward, and you don't have Seth Jones blocking them potentially in a couple of years.
Me when I don't want to get blocked. But yeah, you need
Me when
the
I don't wanna be the
stopgap
cup
is going to
shooter.
come. Dude, the Hawks love it, so they might go sit in it again. You never know.
Bro, they don't know anyone said the cuck chair anywhere. They're sitting in the cuck bunk.
The cuck bunk. No!
Or have you seen the one with the cuck bath?
it's a bed and breakfast.
And then this last question from your brother. Would you let Quinn Hughes into the finals? Well,
If I had it my way,
you know what?
We would have
You know what
taken
I was-
Jake Sanders. We would have taken Brock Faber out back by now. Let's just put it that way.
You know what I was thinking about when we were talking about Jake Sanderson earlier? It's like that scene from Family Guy where they get a new dog and Brian's there and he's like out there talking with Stu and Peter comes out. He's like, "Hey Brian, so I got this new gun and I was wondering if you wanted to go into the woods and shoot it with me and then go so deep in that no one could hear you and see you get buried." Like that's gonna be Team USA with Jake Sanderson.
Let's go.
Yeah, but that's it for Twitter questions. Thank you for submitting your Twitter questions in. Yeah, like shit. What like we've gotten great hockey from this Four Nations tournament, and then like once we get back into it, I think it's Saturday. It's gonna be like 2 weeks till the trade deadline, and then it's gonna be intense hockey and then playoff hockey, and then it's gonna be the draft and free agency. Like it's gonna be a next fun few months.
Yeah, trade deadline's right around the corner. And that's why a lot of teams make their trades before the trade deadline, but there's still a lot of pieces to be moved. And I think the biggest one will be in Chicago that we're going to watch for the next couple months. So get excited on that end. But the fun season for hockey begins now, basically, because this time till July 1st, this is when this sport's great. So buckle in, get your popcorn, get your favorite drink, and watch
Pipeline Punch. Woo!
And watch the chaos unfold. Let's go.
Yeah, we've been in fun mode really since the first puck drop of Canada and Sweden, and to me, it's like it's only going to get better from here. So,
yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you believe it, guys? Trade deadline. Just I think it's 3 weeks away, 2 weeks away. I don't know. Anywho. Thank you all for tuning in to our podcast. Please give us a 5-star rating on your preferred podcast platform, whether that is Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, Google. They got it on all those damn websites. If you're watching our beautiful face on YouTube, be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on anything. So, yeah, for Pierce and Dylan, take it easy, y'all, and we'll talk another time. Peace.